That's not good range of motion.
On the other side usually.
There's, yeah, comically bad actually.
That he does. I just never went to the doctor and got it checked out.
Sure.
I lost a lot of internal rotation on this side. Anytime the knee comes inside, it kills. And
Okay.
It's been that way for a long time. And then what have I done about it? Pretty much zero.
Okay.
Because I'm a lazy power lifter.
Just fight through
I
it.
can lift heavy weights and stick to that, and I don't stretch or mobilize or do any of the stuff that I'm supposed to.
But you've had some work on it?
I've had a lot of work on it. I've done some things for it, but it's just kind of always.
What helps a little? Or for a while? Anything that you've walked out and been like, that's a lot better?
If I just don't lift heavy, you know, for a while.
But treatment-wise, if you walked out and said, okay, that's like a lot better for a while, a few days?
I haven't gotten a lot of relief
No?
from it now.
Okay.
It's wound pretty tight, and it, like I said, it's been like that for maybe like 10 years or so.
Okay. Was there an injury or just kind of a chronic thing that showed up over time?
Somebody cursed me. We were lifting, and we were doing some squats, and the guy was like, "That doesn't bother you to squat that wide?" I was like, "No, man, I squat this wide all the time."
Oh no, he put it in your head?
Boom, done. But no, it wasn't any particular injury.
Sure.
It was just like kind of wear and tear over a long period of time.
Right. And you haven't had an x-ray on it or anything like that?
No.
So.
No. It'll come and go. My kind of theory on that is like, what's it going to tell me?
Right.
It's going to tell me I'm screwed up.
Which you already know, right? Yeah. There's wear and tear on it. Your labrum is probably damaged. You've got some arthritis in there.
I don't have anything before that to
sure. Compare it to either.
Against either, yeah.
Right. And that's, if you guys know the research on a lot of those injuries, like a lot of people have silent deformities, whether it's disc herniations, 82% of people that have never had back pain have disc bulges or herniations. Right. So when you hurt your back and you go get an MRI, was it there before? Well, we don't really know. Right. Same thing with labral tears, meniscus tears, rotator cuff abnormalities. Like 90% of people that have never had shoulder pain have some sort of rotator cuff abnormality. So now when their shoulder starts hurting, is that what's causing it? Well, maybe.
Yeah, right. Well, and it just gives you verification too. You're like, I knew that thing was messed up.
Well, and it can create that, what they call the nocebo effect in your head too. Like I had this with my hip, because we did radiology rotations, and I never had problems with my hip before, but we MRI'd it, and it turns out I have a labral tear in there. Within like a week, my hip started aching and hurting. Yeah. It's kind of just been there in the background. And the crazy thing is I know the statistics, and I can't overcome my subconscious mind that wants to tell me that something's hurting now. There was no injury,
Gotta meditate, gotta bring it in.
Yeah, and what's interesting, honestly, is there are some sort of psychoactive substances that the way that they rewire your brain, it will take away your perception of pain for a period of time. But we go back to your default mode, which is what we happen when we go older. We just do the same thing every day. Right. And then your brain kind of rewires the pain pathway again. Same with the lifestyle that we do too. You're doing the same thing all the time. Right. But then it kind of creeps back. So we've known a lot of people that have had like a lot of success with chronic lower back pain and stuff like that through mushrooms, LSD, stuff like that. They basically completely cured their back pain for like 8 months. Literally just by rewiring the way their brain perceives it. Nothing, no intervention, no treatment, nothing like that. Because pain really only exists here, right? It's trying to tell us when something's wrong somewhere else.
So you get up off the couch and you go, and you make those old guy noises.
Well, that's how opioids work. They work here. They don't work at the tissue level. Like an anti-inflammatory actually works at your tissue level. But an opioid works at your mu receptor in your brain. It basically tells you that things aren't hurting. So pain is designed evolutionarily to tell you something's wrong to protect you. So if you're bleeding or if something's biting you, that you might die. Right. But it can run away out of control too, just like anything, just the way our brain is wired for anxiety and depression and things like that. You can also fixate on pain and create plastic pathways. Neither here nor there. Yours is obviously much more mechanical. So let's take a look. That's not good range of motion. So you can't squat unless you have a lot of weight on your back, yeah?
Pretty much.
You can't squat with your body weight?
Right. Yeah, it's hard to get a little parallel.
You gotta have 315 to even start to go down in the hole?
Maybe warm up and then get there,
Yeah.
This side feels fine, like you can push on that, it doesn't hurt.
Does that feel like the limitation is almost coming from across the hip, like through your groin? Or does that feel like it's on the hip?
Yeah, it kind of feels like it's almost from the other leg.
Yeah. That's what it feels like to me too. That's not bad.
What's the normal range of motion on that? Should he be able to like touch his chest?
Well, he's gonna be somewhat limited by his muscle mass. So, muscle bound is a real thing, right? Like,
damn right.
No matter how much I stretch like that, I'm not gonna be able to touch my thumb. Yeah, there's something in the way. We deal with pro bodybuilders. They want to have full abduction here, but their trap and delta are going to run into each other. It's not going to happen. And if you force it, which is what happens when people do too much yoga, they actually pry the joint open from the other side. So in order for me to get here, I've got to pry this elbow open from the wrong side. I'm levering it. So then they end up actually damaging their joints by trying to create the range of motion they think they should have on a regular sized person. Because everybody's biomechanics are different.
That might be happening with me in the squat a little bit, huh?
Yeah, where it's forcing the motion more than it'll go. So that's not bad. That's actually not that bad. Does that hurt?
It does. I mean, it's uncomfortable. It's not like real painful or anything.
Show me where you're feeling it.
Do it again. Kind of
everywhere
to narrow it down, but yeah, kind of through here, I guess.
Yeah, but not so much on the inside.
No.
So that's a good sign too.
The inside does like if I sit on a kettlebell or something, yeah, I feel that up in the hip.
Yeah.
If I like sit on a kettlebell and wiggle around through the groin, it seems to help with some relief.
Because you can abduct better.
Yeah.
How's it this one right here? Is that pretty sore? Yeah. And then comparatively?
That side feels a little better.
Yeah.
Actually, quite a bit better.
Yeah, compared to this one. So let's recheck this real quick. So you're limited on all sides. So it's a chicken and the egg thing. So which one's causing it? We're not really sure right now. So like sometimes what we'll see on some of our big powerlifters, we had a guy, he ended up having spinal stenosis, but he had an injury, like the weights fell off on one side and he was already kind of hurt. But he was spasming up on the side really bad, and so we'd trigger point dry needle his quad and stuff, and it would be better for an hour and a half, but then he would actually be worse later. And the reason why is his muscles were spasming to protect him. So what you don't want to do is unravel the tight muscle that's actually holding you together. But you don't know until you test it out. So the question is this a long-term contracture that you've got developing here? Because it's just tight, or is it tightening up to protect your hip joint itself? My tentative guess is it's probably a combination of the two.
Holy fuck.
And that's your sartorius. And that's the same pressure.
Wow.
So did you see the video of Diego Sanchez screaming?
I have, yeah.
So you just can't do that.
So good.
There's a spot. So I'm going to hold that one, tell me when it starts to fade. So a lot of what we do here is like if we assess you and figure out which muscles are chronically tight, and we can identify them for you, then all you have to do is just kind of hit them every once in a while with a massage gun or kettlebell or whatever, and you should be able to create the mobility yourself. There we go. That one's fading.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll work our way all the way up. So, adductor, quad, not so bad. Sartorius, so bad.
A little lighter. Holy shit. And it's, weird to try to get into any of this stuff,
Well, you have to know where to go with it. But
Right.
like this one's pretty easy to get with your own elbow if you know where it is. It's just a really thin muscle that attaches all the way through here. So they call it the talar muscle. So the action would be like looking at the bottom of your shoe if you had gum on it. And if your head of your femur can't rotate out of the way, then you just smash it down into the groove with the weight, which isn't really the best. There will be a long-term consequence. There we go. Better there now?
Yeah.
There?
Now it's almost like I just think it hurts.
Right, it's not quite as bad though. A little bit there still?
Yep.
Yeah. And like I said, this it's kind of boring for YouTube or the Instagram, so that's why we put the louder. Yeah, that's what the people want. So we give them what they want, not what we want, right?
Where's the hammer?
A little better there.
Yeah, that feels a lot better.
Yeah. And that's about the same.
Yeah, that still feels better.
Yeah. But that hip flexion is actually, yeah. That feels pretty decent there compared to normal?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's flip you over. You're gonna go face down. And so the reason why I'm starting on all these little small muscles is I figured that you've hit the big ones before, the glutes, the quads.
Yep.
So if you're still getting fixated and it's muscular, it's probably a tiny little muscle that you never heard of.
Tiny little muscle, you hear that?
I mean, you've got really swole quadratus femorises. How about that one? That one pretty rough or no?
Pretty bad. I just have a lot of meat on my butt, so it's not too horrible.
How about that one?
Yep.
That one's worse. Yeah, right there.
It's hard to relax. It's thumb in my butt.
True story. Was it Frankie Goes to Hollywood, man?
Is it, what do you feel in there, like when you...
Ropiness, thickness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe. And it takes, 3 or 4 years. I remember one of my mentors, soft tissue mentors, was like, can you feel it yet? And I was like, there's nothing to feel. You just push where people say it hurts and it gets better. And then like 3 years later, I'm like, oh.
That's kind of like how I am. I'm like, how can you feel that?
Right.
I never know how the guy can feel it.
That's like anything else. It's like your body starts to learn it and feel it. And as long as you're honest with yourself, some people will convince themselves they're feeling things that they aren't. They get so far in a guru status that they don't get feedback. So that's why I'm always asking, because I'm looking to verify my reality. I might feel it, but if he doesn't say that it is, then it might not be. I can't just tell him everything there is. I need the feedback too. There we go. It's starting to clear up better. Feel that movement? So this little muscle right here attaches from the sit bone to the side of the femur. So it's an external rotator of the hip, but it's a small external rotator of the hip. It's not like the glute max or the piriformis. So a lot of times people will think they're having hamstring issues and they'll stretch their hamstring, roll their hamstring, but it never gets better. That tells us it's a quadratus femoris issue here, which is a combination of rectus femoris and quadratus lumborum, but nobody's really heard of the quadratus femoris.
These things just kind of glom together at some point when you start getting messed up.
Yeah, they synergistically tend to be tight. That's why I know which two to go for. But also on you, like I said, I'm sure you've rolled your glutes before. I'm sure you've rolled your quads before. Hip flexor, psoas, all that stuff. So, well, or somebody's worked on them. Somebody's worked on them at least. So there should have been some change, some measurable change if those were the causative agents. I don't think that I'm some master of working on the quad or glute, that I'm just going to be better than somebody else.
Now you gotta buy me dinner to get where I stop.
Yeah, that one's real rough. So that's gracilis. Does that knee bug you on the same side?
Bugs me on the other side usually.
Okay. And the other key is always making sure you test between each intervention you do. Because if you treat a whole bunch of stuff and then you don't retest it, you might have done something that made it better and then made something that made it worse, and you don't know. All right, flip over again. I do feel bad about it. Not in a while.
I feel the room getting a little smaller a couple times.
Did you eat?
I'm fasting, so
Ah,
probably not a good combination.
yeah. Because your blood sugar will drop when you're tensing up.
Yeah, body's like tempted. Body's just fucking giving up.
Yeah. You might need some nuts. Just something.
A sip of Gatorade or something.
Yeah. Because it's a blood sugar issue.
Which way? Face up?
Face up. Because you're fight or flight right now, right?
Yeah. Oh.
Or freeze.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. That's pretty crazy. But I do feel a difference, even in just that little bit of work that you did.
And we've done 2 muscles so far.
Yeah. Where were you working before? 'Cause I couldn't see exactly.
So it's called the sartorius. It attaches here and it wraps all the way to here. So.
That was crazy. And then you were just like kind of digging your fingers almost underneath.
Just kind of plucking the fibers there. Yeah, it's a real thin muscle that goes over the top.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But relatively, like the pressure, that's the same pressure.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right. That's wild.
And the reason why muscles hurt when they're shortened, like if you think about a muscle fiber, it's got little nerves innervated throughout it and they're spread out. So the closer they get together, the more nerves are there. So pound per square inch wise, when I press down on it with my finger, more of those nerves fire. Right. When it's elongated, I'm not going to get any of those. I see. So when the muscle hurts when you push on it, it means it needs more. When it feels good, it means you don't need it.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
So people with bad posture, their rhomboids are overstretched. So when somebody pushes on it, it shortens it temporarily, and so it feels good while they're pushing on it. But that's actually deactivating a muscle that's already too weak. Right. So they'll just keep hammering it and hammering it and hammering it, and they feel better for like 10 seconds, and it gets worse. It's like cracking your own neck, or, you know.
Or it could be like the multiple discs like that.
Better muscularly.
Yeah.
For sure. And so that one should actually be better than previously. How's that one feel now?
That feels a lot better.
Yeah.
I mean, that feels immensely better.
The kids say mad decent.
Mad decent. Feels mad decent.
That's a new thing.
Yeah. That's what's replaced lit, apparently.
It's
I gotta
already
say
done.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'll make my kids crazy. I got 11 and a 14-year-old, so they'll be so mad if I say that.
You're ruining it, Dad.
Yeah.
You know when it gets to the parents, it's not cool anymore,
I was
right?
trying to floss the other day. They were just like, oh my God.
That was so last year. Or somebody said by the time it hits Fortnite, it's already passe.
Fortnite dances.
Yeah. I just can't get into it, man. I guess I'm just too old for the video game thing.
Mm-hmm.
I just, you know.
They're not nearly as good as they used to be. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They used to be awesome.
Yeah.
Now it's just,
Yeah. I feel like it kind of peaked at like the N64.
Yeah, that was like.
I'm just showing my age. That's just what old people say, right? It's like, these young kids.
Those records were the best.
Yeah, right.
Man, how about that VHS?
Elvis over there shaking his hips. These kids, what are they into? Everybody knows it's Chubby Checkers where it's at. And it was, the Beatles. What are they doing? Smoking those tweeds and.
Yeah, we might complain, but we're not going back to like a rotary phone, you know?
Right, exactly. And you have to kind of shake yourself sometimes too. It's like, I'm mad at the young people. That just means I'm A, getting old, and B, I need to adapt to keep up.
I saw a group of men that were probably in their mid, like 60s. There's probably 5 or 6 of them. They were at Starbucks the other day. They all had a newspaper out. One guy was talking to the next guy.
Right?
I was like, that's not any different than having your phone out.
Well, what's wild is how the phones themselves are changing our anatomy. Like most people I know, their pinkies are indented from the phone. Mine is. From holding the phone like that, I actually have an indention in my bone.
Phone callus.
Yeah. Wolf's Law.
What's that grind?
Whoa.
You have a dent?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the phones are literally shaping our anatomy.
Our necks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have ugly fingers.
But you could feel a notch usually on your right pinky finger if you hold your phone there.
You don't have any excuse for your feet, Jess.
Check your finger.
First, like, check your finger. Dang, shots fired. Well, however you hold your phone, whatever it sits on, it accumulates.
I also have.
It's like some people have those little things in the back that help, I guess.
Yeah. But it's kind of just a hip flexor, or what do you got here?
I'm getting TFL.
That feels like it's helping a lot.
Yeah, it's starting to open up. So anything that I can improve on with muscle work, you can improve on. You just need to know where to work. And it doesn't have to be often. It's like brushing your teeth a couple times a day, 5 minutes.
Any of those, complex units or anything, they do anything? Or
No, sometimes. What'll work better for you is like one of those massage guns. Because you can sit there and
what's that?
those massage guns they have, the Tim Tams or Hypervolts. Because when you're lazy like me at the end of the day, I don't want to roll around on the floor, but I'll sit there on my chair and use the massage gun on my hip.
Yeah, I would smash that for sure.
Yeah. I like the Hypervolt for home because it's not as loud. So my fiance doesn't kill me for using it at home. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a Ninja blender. My wife's always like, God damn it.
Yeah. Turn that thing off.
Shakes. She can't handle it anymore.
Yeah. There we go.
House down.
So that's already quite a bit better there. Quite a bit better there. So I actually think a lot of this is muscular, which is a good thing, because that means you can fight it off.
You guys writing this down? You guys got to do this to me every morning.
New job requirements.
For Chris to stick his fingers in.
And he's like, wait, I get to hurt you every morning? All right.
We just need you to like Sharpie on this flesh everywhere we need to.
Right.
press in.
Strengthen up your hands too. Go face down.
What's the worst spot?
I like how that
Ooh.
just went out so quick.
The sartorius is up there, the one in your inner thigh. Subscap, like under your shoulder blade. Base of the skull for you. Base of the skull would be rough because where your traps tie in.
Yeah, and plus I got kind of a forward head posture too, so
Yeah.
it might be super tight in there.
Yeah. Well, muscles are close chain and open chain, right? So in order for you to shrug, you have to anchor it, which means right here has to get thicker.
Right.
So then it gets thicker and it yanks on your skull, and you actually have a bone spur that's developed there.
Hit it with the hammer. Too.
Go face down.
Get those dents out.
You're gonna raise this leg up as high as you can. So keep the knee straight, raise the whole leg. Like hip extension. Okay, yep, now the other side. Okay, so which side felt easier?
The right side, this side.
Okay, do it again, left side. And right side again. So right now your left hip's actually moving better than your right in extension. Of course, we haven't done anything on the right leg either, so. But you get some pain in here too?
Yep, now I do with your thumb there.
But do you, on your own?
Not that I really noticed.
Nothing,
But my back hurt recently.
right.
Off a bit tight.
Powerlifters, marathon runners, you condition yourself not to listen. Plus, you're always sore, so,
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
right, what's sore and what's achy and what's pain, like your brain doesn't necessarily separate all those things. You're like, what's normal soreness anymore? I don't know, I've been doing it for so many years that it's kind of all blended together. Okay, let's go this side up again. Good, and right side. Good, better. Okay. And we'll go there.
Really weird. It feels like someone has a rope pulling my leg up.
Right. And yeah, much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and right side again. So even the right side was better that time. And that way. And left side again.
That tool just looks like the bottom of a cane.
It
Is
is.
that what it is?
Yeah.
So it's not a special.
I have those too, but for long lever stuff. We're working on getting some custom stuff made for it, but this is more of the specific tool.
Ooh, wait a minute. Hold on. Hand me that thing right there.
You don't want to know what's happening above you right now.
I'm not even looking. Just use a lot of coconut oil.
Already.
It's natural, so it's okay.
Good thing those are tearaway pants.
That's the argument I love, that people are like, well, it's natural. Well, that's funny that we pick this one thing to be arbitrarily natural about. We wear shoes, clothes, contact lenses, drive cars, use cell phones.
No, look at it.
But this one thing, I want it to be natural.
Smell it. No.
Okay. And then the foods we eat too. Like, I'm sure you've had people talk about the evolution of food. Nothing we eat existed 300 years ago. There's no wild broccoli forests out there in the woods. Like, we bred those over the common ancestor. There's, yeah, cows. Yeah, we create species to feed us. There's no pears or apples. If you look at the word for apple from French, it's about the same as a potato. And they said they used to taste about the same. So through selective breeding and genetic, modification over years, we've created this sugar thing.
A sugar potato.
Yeah, that just hangs from the tree, and you just go pick it, and it's full of all the deliciousness. Or like bananas too. Like, really, we think there's this encased thing full of sugar that just hangs out in the wild? No. Go out in the woods and see if there's anything to eat. Let's do the side again. Nice, and right side.
It's amazing. I can flex my butt.
Yeah, right. You get better glute activation when your pelvis is lined up better. And we'll do one more time here. Okay, and again.
So why is lifting of the leg like to see where the bar is set?
Well, we're seeing where his hip extension is at. So particularly if people with SI joint, it tells us where the pelvis alignment is. So in his case, he has a left posterior tilt on the pelvis and his spine is twisted the opposite way. So his L5 is twisted this way with his pelvis and the left side is tilted back. So take a few steps and see if that feels better, just walking around.
I mean, a lot of the pain, when I was describing the pain to you in my hip, it feels quite a bit better.
Lighter.
I mean, already. Yeah, it just feels like there's a lot of tension taken out of it.
Right.
Almost immediately. And like, even just having my feet straight, sometimes that kind of hurts his hip. I'm not feeling that at all.
And that feels better there.
And even just being wider doesn't hurt, which is weird. I can lift weights again.
Yeah, not bad there.
Yeah, feels good. Thank you.
Yeah. So lay face up again here. I'm going to create a little bit more internal rotation.
That kind of feel tied down, tiny bit.
Where do you feel it?
You got your golf swing back.
Just kind of, yeah, exactly.
Splits.
Just like, you know, if I'm internally rotated here,
Uh-huh.
I kind of feel like a pull kind of almost through here.
Okay, so
That's
still just
really
across the
gross.
hip flexor.
Worst part
Yeah.
ever to work on.
Yeah, I know.
You took your breath away again.
Yep,
If I sing, will it make it better?
maybe. You got a good singing voice?
Take my breath away. No, not at all. Comically bad, actually. You know, it's like they say in life, you're like good at like 3 or 4 things maybe, and you're like kind of okay at about 10 things, and you just kind of suck shit at everything else. So that's why we have a specialized society. We have this thing called money, and then that creates specialization. So you get good at one thing, and you trade that for money, whatever that is, and somebody gives you that other specialization. That's why it's the antithesis of communism. Literally community, like a tribe that would work. Everybody just makes food and then you have a town doctor and nobody trades money for anything and you just do enough to survive. But if you introduce money, you can't have either socialism or communism because money is an influencer and people stack it up. Or if you have a population that's too big, that doesn't work either. Which is why I always laugh when people call like the USSR communist. It's fascist. There's a dictator that controls the means of production. And gulags, it's kind of the same as Nazi Germany. You know, North Korea, it's fascism.
Right.
Venezuela, it's fascism. Cuba, that's fascism. All right, so you're gonna internally rotate this leg a little more. And keep going with it. Keep going. Keep going. A little more. Good. Okay, and we'll swing you back up like that. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. How about that one?
That feels a lot better.
Yeah,
It's going out, I feel it a little bit kind of through.
through the groin, the thing we neglected a little bit. So it's more there. Sorry, it's that one. So being in an MMA gym, people are like, you've been kicked and punched? Yeah. Mostly by old ladies, but yeah, sometimes fighters. You get like a 60-year-old lady kicks you in the face, and she's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
You're like, yeah, sure you did.
Yep. Guess I earned that.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably.
Ends up on the invoice.
You know? There we go. That's getting better. So I also want to do a traction adjustment on you too. So we're probably going to need your brother or somebody pretty big. You can do it.
Get out of here, Andrew.
You can do it. What do you weigh, 200?
I wish.
No?
About 180-ish.
With the shoes and what'd you put in your
You want to hold?
I could,
Yeah, I can.
You put the bike.
There we go. Okay, relax it.
I kind of felt that relax. I felt it just kind of go.
Give up.
Yeah.
And that's reflexogenic. It's like if I'm checking your reflexes, you can't control it. It's below your spinal cord level. Yeah, that's better.
God,
See that open up?
that's amazing.
Yeah. All right, so what I need you to do is you're gonna go there.
Okay.
Okay, and you're just gonna hold as hard as you can.
Braveheart? Is this the end of Braveheart?
Drawn and quarter.
I legit want this done.
We can do it, for sure. If we can get, enough hold on it. Holy shit. Did you feel that move? Where'd you feel that?
In my lower back, yeah.
It kind of popped upwards there? Perfect, thank you.
I'm taller.
All right, stand up, see how that feels.
You are taller.
She was telling me I'm really short today. She's like, you're having a short day.
A short day.
I did say that he
Thank you.
short today. Actually,
How many people died from that, Doc?
That we would admit to, 0. No.
That felt great.
Villages. So
Appreciate
kind of move around there and just see how that feels.
I'll do a little walk in.
Well, when you're compressed all the time from squatting and deadlifting. Yeah, not bad.
So I selfishly need to.
So try that squat position again. Just kind of see how that feels. Obviously, you don't have any weight on, but I just want to see if that feels like it hinges easier.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt at all.
you're in pants, so it's
Single ply.
Yeah, not bad. And I think if we improve that ankle mobility, that would help you too on that left side. There's so many components to a squat. Like we'll see people having problems
Crazy?
with their knee, and then of course you would assess that, calf, quad, and we've come to find out it's the medial hamstring that's not letting the tibia slide forward to where it can hinge.
When I was doing a lot of seminars and going around the country with CrossFit and teaching people how to squat, I couldn't believe that so much of the dysfunction was actually coming from the upper body.
Yeah, lats,
Just having the weight.
the bar in the wrong
on their
position.
back,
Yeah,
And then trying to figure out how to get their shoulders in place. Almost all the dysfunction I saw was in the upper body.
Yeah.
I was like, I never even, in powerlifting, we do talk about it, get
Sure.
weight and stuff, but you kind of learn it because you learn how to squat 400 or 500 pounds.
and you can, so you
just gotta
do.
figure it out.
Yeah, and so a lot of people that aren't that strong have never gotten to that point, and they can't figure out how to sit down properly. And you're right, like shoulder.
It's kind of like they're doing this.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck is that?
And then you move.
I don't know how to
You move up to a little bit of higher bar position, and all of a sudden they go down mechanically correctly, right? And what is that? What are you doing? Is that a good morning? Yeah, or it's the calf tightness, right? And that's why you wear the shoes with the lift on them, because if your calf's too tight. And that's what I get on too. We'll have these like CrossFit women that work in, a bank, and they wear 4-inch heels all day. Right. They go to the gym and they either go barefoot or go into chucks. And so their Achilles is wired so tight they can't get into that position, so now their knees hurt. Right. So you don't get it back that quickly. So if you wanted to work your way out of that would take some time. But the last thing you want to do is go from that short position to that longer position. You can't do it. You're going to hurt yourself. So in their case, they would actually want a more elevated shoe just to get through their workout. Right. Or they could work themselves out of their shoes, but for some people it's not an option.
At my other gym years ago, we used to have these monolift things. We used to have them up against the wall. And you wouldn't be able to see behind anybody that often. But now we have this big open space. Almost everybody in the gym, you can see their heel come up, and you see them. And they're strong athletes too. I mean, there's men and women that are squatting huge weights, but it's like, man, you're probably just losing a little bit of power right there.
Yeah.
To keep that heel now.
Yeah, and a lot of them are just kinetic chains, So if you can connect them together, you're stronger.
Right.
Like, have you done those little party tricks about like wrist extension and elbow extension and hip flexors? Have you ever done those?
I've seen them before.
You've seen them? So like the one is like, if you put your arm here behind my head and you make a tight fist, so squeeze it real tight. Now I'm gonna pull this down, resist me. So I'm gonna break your arm like that.
Oh, yeah.
Squeeze tight, squeeze tight. Okay, now extend your wrist and your fingers back. So,
Extend
like that.
like that.
So same thing with your arm, but instead of making a fist, you're gonna do that.
Oh, okay.
So now hold it. Feel the difference?
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
So just the little position of your hand made a difference in how strong you were here.
Yeah, it was hard to break it. Yeah.
And it's not a magic trick. What you're doing when you squeeze here is you're engaging your flexors. So then your flexor goes here, it starts this kinetic chain, your bicep then engages, so you're preloaded here.
Right.
So now it's easier to break you. When you extend here, you extend your wrist extensors, which fires your triceps. Your tricep is already pre-engaged, so when I try to break you, I can't.
Right.
Because you have the muscle to resist me, but neurologically you're not capable because you're making a tight fist. So things that are that simple add 30, 40 pounds to your
Weird
lift.
stuff like that too, where they'll get their Achilles stretched a little bit, and then they can touch the floor with their hands.
Right.
And it's like,
And it's
They
just,
didn't stretch their hamstrings, they just stretched their
yeah,
Achilles.
yeah, it's gonna change stuff.
Or
Same thing
just
here.
working
If
in
you,
on your foot even.
like if you point your toe down like that, you're gonna be weaker in hip flexion than if you pull your toe up.
Right.
Same way.
That's wild.
So that transitions over a lot into a deadlift on like, if you engage your tibialis anterior versus if you're pushing down onto the floor, that changes what happens at your hips.
Right.
So if your hips are in a different place, your glute now fires from a different place.
So you'd almost want to be kind of almost pushing your toes up.
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends.
Depends on the person,
Depends on
how they move.
every single person, where they're weak, where they're strong, where they're more physiological advantageous from, which is why you have to have a good coach,
Yeah.
because they have to tinker with it.
Right.
You know, it's hard to just figure it out on your own. And it's almost impossible to be objective with yourself anyway, even if you know stuff, because we still have our own biases.